Hi, everyone. This is the second part of exercise 6. This is exercise 6B. So I'm going to set up another file, file new, and make it 11 by 8.5 again, or letter size document, landscape orientation, 200 DPI, and CMYK color, and background contents white, create, and I'm going to make 2 new layers, and I'm going to place on the first layer a photo that you'll find in your files. So file, place, and say place embedded, and you're going to find in your files your exercises part of your files, a file called Sand Dunes Sahara. So place, and it comes in a little bit small, so I'm going to pull at the corners and make it fit. And I think when it resizes proportionately, and then hit return. That embeds it, and you can go to the layer and check, and it has a little gray square in the lower right hand corner, so it's a smart object. So you should go to layer and rasterize that smart object. Now I'm going to save, because my Photoshop's been quitting on me. So if I save here, I can open it again really quickly. So I'm going to say save as exercise 6B, Joan Kahn, onto my desktop. Okay, on the second layer, I'm going to place, file, place embedded, and I'm going to go into that same folder on your canvas and place the file called kitten for exercise 6, kitten. And again, you might have to pull at the corners a bit to resize, depending on, what size you think it should be, but you'll know that since you're on top of your own image, let's say when you're doing your project. And I'm going to make this actually a little smaller, because I want this kitten to be sitting in the middle of the desert, a little bit smaller. There. And then I'm going to again say return, which embeds it, and then rasterize the layer. If you see that little gray square, so go to layer, rasterize, either layer or smart object does the trick. And now I'm going to save again, because I'm having trouble with my Photoshop quitting on me, and I want to be able to open it again and keep going from this point if it quits. So now I want you to do the same thing that we did in exercise 6A. We're going to get rid of the background so that the kitten is sitting in the middle of the desert. So you can actually turn off the desert layer right now so that we can see what we're doing a little bit better, and go to the quick selection tool and select the kitten. So I'm going to make my tool a little bit bigger so that I can see as I move it around inside the kitten and select. So I know that the edge that you're selecting is going to be a little harsh because the hair is actually fluffy, right? But so make your tool smaller so it can go into the ear. This is the quick select tool, which is the fourth one down on your tools. And look at your selection edge. If it's pretty good at this point, you're getting most of it. You can also go up to this quick select minus and take away a bit if it's a little too big in areas, but it's not going to be perfect because it's getting the edge of the hair. So yeah, so that's about as good as you're going to get it, I think. And Now choose select inverse, and that will select the rest of that layer, and you can delete. It keeps telling me that there's messages saying that I've been quitting, and it's true. It has been quitting on me. So I selected inverse, and I should be able to delete the rest around the cat. So I get the cat, but notice that the cat's edge is not exactly what you might want. So this is where working with the mask, making a layer mask is really convenient because you can refine that edge very selectively and sensitively. So on that layer, make a layer mask, and you do that by going into the bottom of the layers palette to the little rectangle with a circle in it, which says add layer mask. So you're going to add a layer mask. Whoops, Command Z. To that layer. And there's a selection right now. That's why it did that. So Command D, deselect before you do that. You can still, now we want, I think we want the background layer on, the layer of the desert, so we can see exactly what we're doing. We can also crop the edges of the image if you prefer not to have the white and the top border like that. So I can say crop, and I can bring in the edge of the whole image so there's no white showing, and say return, so you cropped. Okay, and it would be best to do this part with a Wacom pen on a Wacom pad. I'm going to save again, so you can do Command S or File Save, or Command or Control S on the PC. So save, because it takes a lot of memory to do this, a lot of RAM. So yeah, it sometimes crashes, and I've been having trouble with that. So I'm saving intermittently so I don't lose what I've been doing. Okay, so I want to show you how putting a layer mask on a layer. The layer mask is the white square, the white rectangle next to the kitten. And if you paint on the layer mask, click on the layer mask and make sure you're painting on the layer mask, you can see what you've been painting. You go down again to the bottom of the palette and make sure that there's black and white. Black, in this case, a foreground, background white. That can be reversed with the little arrow above the foreground and background color. So remember that white adds to and black takes away. So if we're on the layer mask and we zoom in, we're going to be able to paint out what we don't want in this selection and make it look more natural. Notice how some of these areas really look bad. They don't look like fluffy hair at all. So I can go and choose a brush that seems like it would work best for this. Something where I can get maybe a little bit of a point. We could try a soft round, and check up here that you have the right brush. We want the mode to be normal. Opacity should be less than 100% because you don't really want it to be so hard. You want to be able to decide as you go. So maybe make it like 75 or so, because you do want it to be painting out. And you're going to be painting with black, so you're taking away. Now, this is where working with a pen would be a very much more better way of doing this. But I have to use my mouse because it there's a lot of lag when I'm on Zoom. So now I start painting the hair, and I should be using just the brush, my normal brush, and not a clone tool, not anything else. And you should be able to see the normal brush, and you're painting out. Now, if you don't like the brush that you're using, you can go to another brush and see if it works a little bit better. I'm going to make my opacity even less because I want to be able to paint out in a transparent, and then you sort of would see the brush strokes. Making my brush really tiny right now. It's doing something really weird. It's picking up and a little bit from the background. And I don't want it to be doing that, but my Photoshop's been acting up a little bit. So I'm gonna have to do the best I can. Now, you wanna be painting with black onto the mask. I'm checking my mask settings because it's acting a little strange here. Making my brush a little bigger. Yeah, Photoshop is giving me a little trouble here for sure. I'm going to see if it helps to turn off the now it should be erasing into that layer. It's not doing too good a job of that. So bring my opacity up a bit. There. And my goal here is to start having the hair really look very fluffy. So I'm using a hard edge, tiny brush with a point, hopefully. Try different brushes and see if the effect you get is that of hair, more fluffy kind of hair. And you can go with a really tiny brush to do this. And again, what will help you is using the opacity at a rather low amount. Now I'm going to want to really erase some of this. So I put the opacity up. So this will take a while for you to do. And as I said before, it'll be much easier when you have the Wacom tablet also. So the cool thing is that you can also go back in and change to white. When you paint with white with a mask, you can paint in some of the hairs. So you can go back and forth between painting out and painting in. So lowering the opacity again and going to maybe a fuzzy brush here and painting in a bit of this. It shouldn't be making these little marks, these little vertical marks, but I'm kind of seeing that happen due to the problem I'm having right now with Photoshop. It probably won't save like that. So notice it right at the bottom, then you're going to see my work, and you can compare it with where, whoops, I've just painted in an area that I wanted to paint out, so I have to change to black. And up the opacity. So I can really clean up if I up the opacity to 100%. And now we can pretend like the Sahara Desert was painted, was a painting by you. And maybe you painted or you took a photo of the kitten and you want to refine this edge so it looks much more like fur and not a hard edge selection. So I could keep going. Notice here, it needs a lot of work because I haven't painted into it. I'll do a little bit more so you can see how I would do this with the brush and making the brush really tiny and choosing a brush that works to go into this and make the edge look like hair. And then lower the opacity, and you can go back and paint in with white. So the white puts it back in, the black took it out. Okay, so I'm going to, what am I in now, white or black? I want to be in black, so I'm still taking out right here, or black. I'm working back and forth with opacity. So you can do a much better job when you're working with if you have a tablet and a pen. Okay, let's go out, zoom out, and notice that the area that looks most natural is her bottom area, the very back leg. So keep going all the way around, and then turn on the dunes and see if you like what she looks like sitting in the desert, whether she looks nice and fluffy after you've refined and repainted the edge with a tiny brush, taking away, adding to on the mask. And then you can go and you can say layer and put a layer style on it. And they have a drop shadow. So you could put a drop shadow of your choosing. So notice the drop shadow comes in and you can choose the size, you can choose the spread. The main thing right now is we want the angle to be different. Let's say you wanted the angle to be a little bit down and behind her. Put it there in preview, you can see what you're doing, and then maybe decrease the distance so it's just right under her, and work with that angle again. So maybe it's just right under her. And you can also move this so you can see what that looks like. So she has, she also has some to the top of her, and you don't want that. So make sure it's just where you want and you can make the opacity a little bit. So I just want the shadow to be right under her. Maybe you want the spread to be less and the opacity to be a little bit more. Again, check under the cat to see if you like that, and then say okay. So here's the cat on the Sahara Desert. The only part that looks good right now is where you've refined the edge and made it look more fluffy and more like fur. On the top and on the right edge, it actually looks, it doesn't look good. The edge is really, you can see that it's been cropped out or cut out and it doesn't look natural. So you go, when you finish this, when you do this, go all the way around and then put a shadow under it in layer styles and say save as. When you do your collage, you don't need to put a shadow at all. You would just collage things the way you want, but you can use layer mask to refine edges. And that'll be really good if you don't have edges the way you want after you've cropped images or cut out images or deleted other parts of an image in order to let the image underneath show through. So save it as a Photoshop document and turn it in the turn in folder in assignments on Canvas. Thank you. So I'm going to say save and say replace if it already exists and say okay. I haven't finished it, but you will. You can do this with photos or your own drawings and paintings. I just happen to be working with 2 photos, but it doesn't, you could easily do it to a part of a drawing, part of a painting as well. Thank you.